also shows us turning to Allah confidently. Don't turn to Allah half-heartedly. Like when you call upon Allah, when you sit in these gatherings, when you read Quran, fully go confident with Allah. And I recall a hadith which is in Bukhari. Rasul ﷺ was sitting in the masjid when 3 men entered. And he was giving a class. He was talking and teaching the companions. They were all sitting around close to him. 3 men entered. One of them found a gap and he sat close to the Prophet ﷺ within the gap. The other man got a bit shy, so he sat a little bit of a distance. The third man, he left. Rasul ﷺ after this talk, he said, do you remember the 3 men that entered? They said, yes, Ya Rasulullah. He said, the first one, he came closer to Allah, so Allah came closer to him. He accepted him the most. The second man, he got a bit shy, so Allah got shy of him too, but he still included him. But it's a degree less. So the closer you are to the gathering, the better. The third man, he turned his back to Allah, so Allah turned away from him. He didn't get anything. So don't think that if you enter in as a gathering, you walk away thinking, nah, they don't want me here. I don't belong here. I'm not religious enough. Then you've turned away from Allah, because Allah doesn't say that about you. Allah wants all of you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favors everybody. And Allah says He does not look at your bodies or your shapes or your figures or your gender or your face, but He looks at your heart and then your actions. Allah looks at our hearts and then our actions. So how do you want your heart to be presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So turn to Allah with confidence always. We come to the next part. The first man mentioned his parents. He was standing there, and the first question I think some of you might be asking, he was standing with the bucket of milk. His kids were crying, but he won't give them. He has to wait for his parents. Is that fair? We get this type of question in the West all the time, so I'm going to answer that. It is more appropriate and the sunnah to feed your children and your wife first before your parents if both of them are hungry. Because Rasul ﷺ said, وَابْدَأْ بِمَنْ تَعُولْ. Ibda' biman ta'ul. The hadith is authentic. Begin with those who are dependent on you. Why? Because your children, they can't go anywhere else, and your wife is upon you. But this man understood it the way he understood it. He understood, I've always had this particular habit. And my entire family and children knew that this is the system I go on. I feed my parents first, then my children. That's the first answer. The second answer is that his children were not neglected. So yeah, they were hungry, but not starving. So they had food, but they wanted the milk. So he didn't neglect his children or his wife. That's number 2. And number 3, perhaps the man did not know that in his time, because it was before the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that his dependents, he could have given them first and then waited for his parents. And a fourth answer is, do you see how the rock, we said it moved only a little bit? Maybe he could have done this act better. Maybe give his children and his wife and then wait for his parents. And maybe the rock would move even more. So knowing more about your deen also produces greater acts of worship that have more value. Knowing less about your deen will make the action a little bit less too. So if you want to do your salah better, learn how to do a salah better. If you want to give charity, learn how to give charity better. If you want to do business in halal, learn how to do it better. And your rewards will go further, inshallah. So anyway, that was the answer.